kind of a decent sized job today, and it's going to involve pulling this tank off, opening up this cap, removing this hose here, the thermostat, and then after all that's done is replacing all of the fluid inside the radiator system. One of the most important things is don't just go ahead and get a yellowy green. This is good for all cars. If you have a Toyota, you can get it from Toyota, or the one that says for Asian cars, because the chemicals in it are basically made to balance out the components inside the engine. A lot of aluminum, things like that, preventing corrosion and all. So some of you may ask, hey, why are you going to do that? Well, the job is kind of entailed. So why I have it apart, since this is a 2007, it's kind of a good time just to go ahead and replace the hoses and everything else. They're really kind of squishy, and you can tell there's some weaker spots here. This a little, I don't know, a little stiffer here, but you can tell they've just kind of had their lifespan. And the worst thing you can do is either driving to work, or you're out on the trails or something and something goes. One of these pops open, you're trying to do an on-site fix, or God forbid, should you have the thermostat failing to close, then you have overheating and you're stuck, and of course you don't want to force yourself to keep going and blow a head gasket. So it's really easy once you have this all apart. You've got it all drained anyway, so it's a lot easier to go ahead and just replace some stuff. So we have the pipe down there, the big one that comes up around here. So I got two clamps I'm going to reuse. Again, that's coming off along with the other side. The bottle here is just easier to give it a good clean. There's three, I believe it's 10mm bolts. I'll go ahead and take those off, take this little tank out, give it a good clean before I put it back on with some fresh stuff. I do have one of these on order, and when it comes in I'll replace it. There's nothing wrong with this, but again, you don't want to be out even just plain old driving and have something fail and wait for it to go bad. So this was about 10, the other one was about 10. The thermostat, I got it AutoZone for $34.99 plus tax, and then of course antifreeze is antifreeze, so as far as the price of that goes. Alright, so right back in there, this is the right side of the engine. There's one on the other side too, and you can see it's just below the manifold on the block. There's a little, I believe that's a 10mm there to loosen up. It opens up the drain into that little pipe that you see sticking out there. And that's how you can drain the engine block also, because I think there's only about 2 or 3/4 that comes out of the radiator, and you have to drain the block also. There's one on the other side that's in the exact same spot. I'm not going to keep flipping back and forth because it literally is in the same spot. And I'm going to hook a hose up to that and have it drained into a container so there's no mess or anything else. And when you're all done, you just go ahead and close it off. And again, this is all inside the wheel well. I changed this up not too long ago. This is an absolute separate cooling system that uses the same fluid, and this is the liquid cooling system for the intercooler for the Supercharger. So this is separate from the main system. This has already been done. And in the truck here, this is the front left side. This is the filler plate that I made. I have oversized bolts. I retapped the holes that are in the cross member. Oversized long bolt here. This is the front skid pad here. This needs to come off. Some of the guys pop this and they try to get up through there and stuff. I have some work I want to do underneath here. I'll be taking a look at something else later on today. So this is coming off. This one here is coming off again. This panel slips forward, and then it's got a little S-shaped clip, and it goes into 2 notches. I'll try to point that out again. And I have a couple of bolts back in here I need to take out. So I just like to have all this out of the way. That way I have some extra light coming up through the bottom of the engine compartment, and I have plenty of room to work. Alright, for those of you that have taken this off before, this front skid pad from the factory, it tilts forward, rests on this portion here, and then you put it pretty much straight up and down so that these upper little short tabs can be pulled out of the actual slots that are up in there. So you kind of pull it out at an angle like this, and then it comes right out, and there's 2 little slots that are up in there. Alright, there's the slot on the left hand side, that oval, and that's what they go up into. Alright, here's the bottom left hand side of the radiator, and again you just twist that little ivory knob, and that opens up the nipple on that there, which I'm going to put a hose on. So I'm going to drain the radiator there and then drain the engine block. Alright, you can see the nipple I have the hose attached to. The hose I had was a little bit too big. It's nothing that a tie wrap can fix, so I put a tie wrap on that to reduce the dam and then push that on. I'll go ahead and crack that open. That comes down here. That's going to go into this jug here. I'll watch it, and that way if it starts to get too full, I can basically shut that nut off in there and stop the flow. Also, one thing that's good to remember when you do this so there's no suction, just go ahead and take the cap off. And like I said, these things are cheap, and I'm not going to wait till this goes bad, so I do have one on order I should be getting any day now. And again, that's going to drain the engine, and then I'll get under there and drain the radiator, which will bring this level and stuff down too. And these orange sleeves basically go onto a hand pump, so I don't really want to cut them the length. I did the same thing, use the tie wrap to snug that up, and then we'll go ahead and just loosen this up to open up the valve, and we'll get that draining down into here. Alright, the fluid doesn't look bad, but you can't really go by looks. And you also have to have some patience, because it does take a while for it to go ahead and bleed out of that little opening underneath the radiator. Also, mine had a little blockage, so I just used a screwdriver, shoved it up in there and cleaned that out. Just some dirt and stuff had gotten up in there. I think as far as that one goes, before I seal it back up, I'm going to put a little cover on that pipe to keep it clean, nothing from getting inside. Alright, I've got this really long extension, and I'm going to be using that to get in this side to crack that open. Harbor Freight Tools, great company, all hand tools are guaranteed for life. They had these extensions on sale. I forget how much I paid for all three sizes, and it was just such a steal I had to get them. And I don't use them all the time, but cases like this it really comes in handy. Again, you gotta have patience. So here's my short extension, long extension. You can see where it's hooked up back there in that nut, and down here it is draining pretty well. Again, it's slow, you just have to have patience. I have this one backed up as much as possible right now, and then I'll just go ahead and close it up once there's basically no more fluid coming out. So it's slow, but it is working. In case you guys are wondering, this is a little hand socket. Works really great for this, so your hands don't slip on something like this. Again, all this stuff is Harbor Freight Tools. Coming back over here, this one is still doing its thing. I need to check and see if it's stopped. Again, there's only a couple quarts that reside inside the radiator. Unless you replace it with an upgraded radiator, you can get some all aluminum ones that hold about 4 quarts. Just do a Google search on those. But I'm pretty happy with this. Good news, while we're waiting for those to drain, those of you that have a Toyota, my brake fluid's been in there for quite a while, and on this test strip here, down here, it basically shows right here, 0. So basically the original brake fluid is great, so Toyota has a really good sealed system. The other side of these test strips, I bought these from Amazon. I'll put a link up there. You put into the coolant and it comes all down here, so I didn't have anything as far as rust or any of that stuff, but the boiling point, it was down here on the test strip, which is replace, correct to replace. So since it was inside of this bracket here on the test strips, they turn color, it was time to go ahead and replace that, but the brake fluid is good. Alright, so here's the coolant I'm going to use. This was a concentrate, it's 50-50, and of course when you add water so you don't get any buildup or minerals, guys, I can't express enough, please use distilled water. So that's in this container here. So we've got 50% of this whole thing and then 50% water. That's ready to go. I do have another one, again, Asian Vehicles, so that way the formulas match. I actually couldn't find this one again. So this is actually pre-mixed, so I don't have to worry about that. Got the thermostat here, and I'll show you more about this nifty neat little thing here, spill proof, and I'll show you how that works. Okay, I'm running over here, caught this just in time. So it's pretty much full at this point. So I'll get another container to put this in, and then of course I'll take a drive down to the dump and go ahead and dispose of this in their containers. So there's one full gallon there, and that's coming out of the block versus a small amount that comes out of the radiator. Get the second gallon container all hooked up, straining, and we'll see if we can't get the rest of it out. That will be 8 quarts, and I believe this whole thing holds about 10.4. So we'll get that sorted out. Also, what I did over here when I was mixing this up with a gallon of that and a gallon of distilled water is I added this stuff right here. Again, it mixes with everything. It's supposed to be up to 30 degrees Fahrenheit cooler. Anytime you can let the cooling system be cooler, along with, of course, the transmission lines go through the radiator also for cooling, so this will help a bit for that too. It never hurts. I think this is about $12.97, and I think I got this at AutoZone right up the street. So that was AutoZone. This was an AutoZone here. I was going to order it from Amazon. After everything was said and done, it was supposed to be, I don't know, like $50, and AutoZone had it for $34.99, so that was a no-brainer. And this little kit here I saw in a video, and it's pretty awesome. I'll show you guys how this works. It really makes this whole thing easier. And over here are the new hoses, and they're extra shiny because I coated them. That way they'll last longer than what's in there. Okay, this is an Aerospace UV Protection, and I basically went ahead and added this to the Serpentine belt, both sides, and when it dries it's not really slick or anything, which is kind of neat. One guy had this in his vehicle for over 200,000 miles, and his Serpentine belt inside these ridges here never cracked. So I thought, well, never hurts, let me go ahead and try it. So I actually put this on the hoses also, see if I can get them to last longer. I don't want to have to keep going through this. So my vehicle's an 07, 14 years old. Get another 14 years out of it before I have to worry about changing out this stuff, and hopefully next time I won't have to worry about the hoses if they're in good shape. Last time I had this off, I was doing the differential lift. That's on a different video, and went ahead and scraped off, treated all the rust, and then hit it with some paint, and that way this will last a lot longer. Up in here it just collected a bunch. Down in this thing here, there's a hole in the bottom now where that used to be just a cup. It would hold water, and it was rusting out pretty bad. So it's got a hole drilled in it, and it just doesn't go all the way through, but it goes to this portion here, so it will leak out through these little vents. One thing neat is once you drain one side of the vehicle, the block, most of it comes out. On the other side, very little came out, so that's all closed up and stuff too now. Alright, so most of the FJs will come with 2 radiators. I have 3. This one here is the radiator slash pre-cooler liquid cooling system for the Supercharger. Down underneath you'll see the evaporator for the AC, and this is the main radiator for the vehicle. It's actually pretty thick. I'd say it's probably about an inch. You can get ones that are like 1.5 inches, 2 inches, but for what I have, this is fine. I'm not out in the desert going off-road, although I do know some guys that do, and they haven't had any problems with it. This little guy here, this is the recirculating pump, and this is part of the cooling system for the Supercharger. Alright, so coming back here, this is all drained out. Now I can go ahead and close this back up, just kind of screw it back in. And show with the other hand, make sure it's snug. Don't want that coming loose. There we go there. Let's go ahead and pull this off. And that's about what we got out of here. So I'll put this into the jug and see how much drained out. There is some that's held captive. Again, it's not in bad shape, the fluid. There's some that's still in the system itself. And of course that's probably back behind the heater core and all that stuff, but I don't mind if that mixes a quart or two with my fresh stuff. Again, it wasn't in the worst shape. Alright, again looking from the bottom. So we have the sway bar here. There's the main pulley. Mine's a little bit different because again I have the Supercharger engaged. And this is the pre-tensioner right here. That's specifically for the Supercharger belt. I may swap that out today. I'll see how much room I have once I pull those cooling hoses off, and that'll make swapping this out a lot better. The only problem is you need to release this, take the belt off, take out this bolt here, that bolt there, and this is a side bolt, and then this comes off, and then it's a pain to put back on. But while it's all apart and the hoses are out of the way, which is this guy right here reaching up from the top, it just might be a lot easier to go ahead and swap this out today. That's what I've been finding. There's other work I need to do. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take this off. That's going to give me more room. And then, you know what? I think I'm going to go ahead and replace this serpentine belt. The only problem with this is the way that you have to take the belt tensioner off. This one here, this light colored aluminum. And on the other side up in here, there's a square hole. And that's where you put a 1/2-inch drive ratchet, and you basically, let's see here, I think you move it to the right. You'll actually fulcrum it to the right, and that's going to take the pressure off. Again, I've got two belts. Mine are different because I do have the Supercharger, and they had to add all this. So I've got this belt, and I've got the main belt down there, and that's actually still in good shape from Toyota. So I'm not going to mess with that. This is something that has to be done from the top and the bottom. So I'll loosen that up, pull it off here, and then I'll basically just go ahead and replace it by taking this off and stuff too. It is a pain in the butt, but it's just something that has to be done. So let's see here. First things first, let me go ahead and get rid of the old thermostat. I'll loosen that up, and then I'll go ahead and take this off. Again, this is only for the folks that have the Supercharger. If you don't, your serpentine belt is lower, and man, I tell you, it's a hell of a lot easier than this. Okay, so if you have the Supercharger, this is the belt tensioner that went in. You've got these two nuts, and you have a bolt on the side. When it's mounted, it's sitting in there like this. Put a big socket in here, get a long extension, or if you have a pry bar that just happens to line up with it. I don't have a ratcheting pry bar, so mine's set. You push the bar to the right, which lifts this up because the belt is actually going around this side of it. By lifting it up, it takes the tension off. Then you can slip the belt off of this one, and then that comes off. And again, the way I run this is right here. That's the way that's going to be run. And that's this one right here. That's because I have, again, the Supercharger. So once the belt tensioner is out of the way, because it locks this into place, you can go ahead and take this off. So let me go ahead and just take that off from the bottom and get this out of here. And then I'll have to get the new one routed down in there. Again, this company, Bando, and those are the numbers there, and they agree with what I had on the sticker that shows you the belt routing. They actually give you a couple different part numbers. Here's the problem, and I had a lot of cracking. It's old. Sure, the outside was okay, but the inside's kind of chewed up. I checked it; it's the same length as the other one. So here's the nice new one here, and again, this has been treated, so I should get a lot of use out of this. So let's go ahead and get this one in. Get the belt tensioner back on, and first I'll go ahead and swap out that thermostat since everything is out of the way now. Alright, there's the old one. Again, there's nothing wrong with it, but while I had this all apart, everything was just kind of coming together as far as what to replace. It wasn't that much money. Now for another, I don't know, 14 years, I don't have to worry about it. I'll go ahead and replace this one. So here's the new one. You see the spring setup is a bit different. So who knows if they made improvements on it or what. This is from Duralast. Usually their aftermarket stuff is, believe it or not, a little bit better than what comes from the factory. So we'll go ahead and get this on. It's got the O-ring right in there. And now I won't have to worry about this. Okay, so I can't even begin to tell you guys what an absolute pain in the you-know-what that was. While I was getting this into position, I had this around here, up through here, and just around something on the hood to tension while I was trying to get everything into place. So, everything's right where it's supposed to go. And this is the tensioner here. You just move it to the right, and it actually loosens that up. It's really stiff, So it's going to take a while for you guys to get that, but holy crap, was that a pain in the butt. And now just trying to get this driver out of that, that's going to be a little bit of a pain. So now we're back to the original, now that this belt's done. And we're going to go ahead and hook the hoses up here, on this side here, and get the fluid in. And again, I use these ratcheting extensions. This was able to give me the leverage I needed. And it's got the detents on there to be able to get that belt tensioner loose. My nice brand new radiator cap came in. So I can let this one go, put the new one in, and I won't have to worry about that wearing out either. So there's the new hoses. And then of course there's a new, actually the same existing stainless steel clamps. Same thing with down there. Took a while to twist this and get it figured out as far as how it goes. So got it so it's not rubbing anything, not really touching anything. Should be good to go. Thermostat's on, everything's torqued down and tightened. Belt tensioner's good. All 3 screws, actually 2 nuts and a bolt. So I just need to go ahead and get the overflow tank on and then get it filled up. I got the overflow tank in. I'll put this in up here once I filled it up. Gave it a good wash inside and out. Like I said, everything's hooked up. Now I'll show you that neat little gadget, the funnel and the adapters. I got this on Amazon, spill proof. I actually had a dust cap. I put that on there myself. So we'll go ahead and get this and I'll show you how this works. So the adapters are all color coded. Blue seems to work. You find the one where the little pipe fits inside the hole. It's got a gasket on it. Then you put this little guy here over the top of it. It's all color coded, so there's no way you can do it wrong. Okay, so that seals it. And then the funnel fits right in here. Let's get this little plunger here so you can actually stop the flow if you want to. And this is all tight fitting, so that way I can go ahead and start to fill this. Take my time with it. And then you can even leave some fluid in here after you start it, so it burps and you'll actually see the water coming out of here. And I'll open up the heater core and let that do its thing. So for now, take the plunger out and we'll get some fluid in there. Alright, this is the system there, drinking and burping. A little cover on top. No matter how careful I am, I'm the one doing the spilling, not this. Just pouring it in, it drips down the side of the container. But it's okay, when I'm done I'll just pull it out and give everything a little rinse off in here because I don't need the radiator fluid reacting with the paint. Alright, you can see some bubbles there as it's going through the car with the engine running. And then I've got the heat on. And again, as this heats up, it'll be going percolating up into this thing here, being replaced with fluid. Whatever's left over, I'm putting it here along with some stuff I have on the floor in a brand new jug. Double checking. I'm going to wait till this gets warm. You want to squeeze it a few times in case there's any bubbles. And you can see there are bubbles coming up here, so we're still percolating and actually moving out the bubbles. Once the heater core opens up, I should be able to flush that out with the new stuff, and at the same time, if there's any bubbles, that'll come out. And then what I'll do for a while is, actually not a while, but when I've driven it, I'll come back and I'll check the level to make sure it's fine. Okay, just checking for leaks. I'll let it get nice and hot. So we'll have a few bubbles making their way out. Let that run for a bit. Sure beats going in and having, the dealership do it or your favorite mechanic. Yeah, they're going to make a living too, I understand, but I just don't feel like paying for it. So anyway, like I said, so this is still bubbling out, being replaced with fluid. Again, when I'm done, I'll just get this filled out to where it's supposed to be. Really, the only thing left is to adjust this. Once I can get it outside, shine it at the garage and get the right height. Inside, again, the belt is done. Oil change is another time. And we got the hoses replaced. We have the clearance all set up. Everything's close, but I had to twist and adjust this one a little bit, along with the bottom one, then tighten those back up. Other than that, that is all set now. And let's see here. This one here is self-exploring. It was just a 90. Again, got the new cap on. This is back in place, and it's filled up right where it should be. And if it gets to be too much, it just has an overflow. I need to pull this thing outside. It's raining right now anyway, and just give it a rinse for where some of the radiator fluid was splashing due to burping. I didn't have the cover on there. And that's it. So it was pretty involved. Took quite a good part of the day to get the hoses, again, even the new thermostat while I was at it. And that gave me plenty of room to go ahead and mess around with this stupid thing, which for one person, my God, that was a pain in the rear end. So that's it. Got two big things taken care of. I'll get this on YouTube and let you guys have at it.